How much did you spend in the Philippines?
Well, half of what we spend here, so that's great.
How much did you spend?
Like $3,000.
Are you sure?
The flights alone were like $3,000.
Then you spent more.
Really?
You're purchasing on a Credit One card? Why purchase on this card?
Because we paid for everybody in the Philippines.
Who's everybody?
My whole family, all 23 of us.
You paid for all of them?
Yes, because it's
Why?
what you do when you go home to a third world country. You're the one in America. You're rich, so you go home and pay for everybody's meals and drinks and vacations.
This doesn't make any sense. You guys were already in a stack of debt. How much do you think went out?
$10,000.
Okay, where'd you go?
To the Philippines.
Is that where you're from?
Yes, I'm Filipino.
Okay.
Full bred.
So, yeah, it was $25,000.
What's $25,000?
That's the number that was spent.
No. We don't even make that much money.
That's the point. You're in debt. You put more on debt. Your debt went up.
You mean like on credit cards?
That is a debt.
Had I died...
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good dive back again. Once again, let's lock in. There's certain habits that I have found to be the most detrimental to just about anybody who participates in it, but more specifically, those that come from the Philippine culture. You see, I've lived amongst culture and I understand the value of family, right? In the United States, of course, family to an extent is important. It should always be important. But in the Philippines, I think it's like levels beyond important when it comes to family, doing for the family and being about the family. But there comes a certain point wherein you got to learn how to say no, or you got to learn how to put things into perspective to make sure that you're not putting yourself in the hole trying to take care of other people. And in this particular video, shout out to Caleb Hammer. He is the curator or the founder or CEO, whatever, of Financial Audit. I'm a big financial nerd guy, so I love his channel. Of course, he's a bit dramatic, you know, he's screaming at people and stuff like that. That's what he does. But at the same time, I find it to be very, you know, the information to be quality and very, very informative, okay? So, in this particular video, he has a young lady who is Filipino that basically openly admitted that she spent for everybody in the family when she went back to the Philippines. So there's two videos that's shown at the beginning of this one. The first one is her talking about the money and how in Philippine culture, when you're the one that makes it to the United States or makes it out of the country, when you come back, you take care of everybody's meals, right? And in the second video, I'm believing this, if I got the stitching correctly, I'm praying that I got it right. You'll see that they talked about her charging upwards of $25,000 on the card. Maybe not necessarily for the entire trip. It was labeled for a trip to the Philippines, but maybe the full 25K wasn't for the Philippine trip itself, but she basically went into debt of upwards of $25,000. So for the sake of the video, we're gonna say that baby girl spent the money for the plane tickets, and while in country, she spent upwards of thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars on family and friends and stuff in the Philippines. And her open admission is because that's what you're supposed to do when you are the, not necessarily the breadwinner, she didn't mention it, but when you make the money and you're outside of the country, that's just what you're supposed to do. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the habit that is gonna keep Filipinos broke as fuck. And again, it's gonna keep anybody who participates in said activity broke, right? Now, if you're a big family person, I understand, right? I love my mama to death. God rest that woman's soul. And if she asked me for anything and I could give it to her, I would give it to her. That's just what it is. This woman did everything for me. Shout out to my father, you know, everybody who loved me. My dad, like I said, my dad's well off. You know what it is when you're the son, you tend to want to do everything for your moms and shit, but of course you do for your father as well. But at the same time, if my mom would have asked, she could have gotten it, right? No questions asked. But the one thing about my mother, 10 toes down, even towards me and my brother, my mom never asked us for money for nothing. She said, that's y'all money, y'all do with y'all money, you do that. But if you ask her, she'd be quick to give it to you if you actually need it, you know, because that was just the type of energy she had. But if you do come from a family wherein they're simply reliant on you as the individual to take care of everybody, that puts you in between that rock and a hard place, because you A, either don't know how to say no, B, don't want to say no, or C, just do not have the financial capacity to be able to support yourself and them as well. And because you don't want to tell them no, the first two, you can't say no, don't want to say no, You find yourself living in these foreign countries just not happy because all you're doing is giving away all your money to the people back in the Philippines, or you're spending for them back in the Philippines, and they're doing okay, they're living off of you, and you're struggling here because, hey, well, I might be struggling here, but at least my people are good. You got that mentality. That shit don't work. You did not come to a foreign country to struggle. You came to, quote unquote, live that American dream, if that's your vibe, or at least be able to provide a better life for those around you. But by putting yourself into debt, that ain't it, right? That is not the way. In the Philippines, you'll understand if you've ever been there that yes, they do have credit cards and you can use credit cards, but most people don't live on credit, right? It's usually a cash culture. You can use your cards and stuff like that, but mostly if you ain't got the money, there ain't no real charging some shit and paying it on the back end. Not in most situations. It does exist, but it's not typically how a lot of people move in said country. But, here in the United States, my bad, boy working, right? But here in the United States, right, we live off debt, right? We live off credit cards. Me, I never swipe a debit card to save my life. But at the end of the day, I know that I have the funds or the financial capacity to be able to pay off all the money that I've swiped on my credit card at the end of the month, or at least be able to pay that statement balance so I'm not accruing interest, right? I know that. I can do that. But that's not the same for everybody else, right? And I'm starting to understand that when my people coming from foreign countries come to the United States and they get involved in this process as well, and they're like, yo, I can do all this right now and I can pay on it later. It doesn't always end well, does it? It genuinely does not end well. A lot of people are wondering what happened to the money, why they owe this, why they owe that, and it just becomes, just you just don't think through it. And then you realize, or you come to find out that you're in financial ruin, or you put yourself in a very complicated financial situation that you're just not going to be able to get out of. I find that my Filipinos are very good at doing that, at least when they're out the country, not necessarily just in the United States, anywhere where they can, make money that is more than, living in the Philippines themselves. They find themselves in situations wherein that shit just doesn't add up, right? It just doesn't add up. So they go broke quick, or they live off debt, or they they basically compound debt, and then they end up not being able to take care of themselves while they're sitting there trying to take care of others. So if they do not learn how to break the habit of taking care of family, or putting a cap on how much money you send to family and all this stuff, because somebody's always gonna get sick, somebody's always gonna need money for tuition or going to school, somebody's always gonna need money for an electric bill or to pay their boarding house fees, there's always gonna be a need for money. So if you don't cap it at a certain amount of money every month, if that's the energy you want to have, then they're gonna find themselves in situations wherein they're gonna end up effed up, right? And they're probably gonna be more miserable in life because they're too busy trying to fight this, or trying to find ways to say no, or letting people know, I don't have it. And then you get into the guilt tripping when you do say no. Oh my God, I raised you. You're supposed to take care of your siblings, because I know Philippine culture, y'all. My wife is the oldest. Do not play with me. I know this shit. I know how it trickles down, right? So I know the vibe, and I know how it goes in most family situations. I'm not going to say that it's all family situations, but heaven forbid you're the oldest daughter and you just so happen to marry a foreigner man. Not necessarily black, but foreigner man in general. Motherfucker, some people are going to look at you like they've hit the jackpot, right? And you're going to have to nip that in the bud real quick, because if you do not, it's going to get ugly. I'm blessed enough and lucky enough that I have a wife that's willing to put her foot down when necessary to keep everything in check. So I don't even have to fucking deal with it. But at the same time, if you find yourself in a situation like that, or you are a Filipino or foreigner person moving to the United States and you don't know how to say no, I'm telling you right now, you're gonna find yourself really, really in between that rock and the hard, because you're gonna want to do things for yourself, right? You're gonna want to live your best life. You're gonna want to go to places and travel and stuff like that. But if you're giving away all of your bread to your family members back home because everybody needs something, because you're the breadwinner or the whole, you hit the lottery or whatever it may be, think about what's left for you. This is not the life that you signed up for. You didn't ask to be born. So it's not as if you should feel an obligation, unless you want to give it. You shouldn't feel an obligation to take care of everybody else because you just happen to be the one to make it. And again, I'm not saying that this is just a Philippine thing, but it does seem to happen amongst my Filipino people more so than a lot of other people. Because here in the United States, you can have that same situation happen, but what I'm learning is a lot of people are more willing to say, fuck all that shit, shouty, and just say, you know, I'm not giving it, right? I'm not putting it out there for you. I ain't got it, right? I do not have the financial capacity to be able to take care of me and you and everybody else. So y'all gonna have to figure it out. You see it amongst rappers and, you know, people who play basketball who really come into large amounts of money. They're gonna get the guilt tripping, but just your everyday regular degular Filipino that happens to make it in the United States or other foreign countries, it don't matter how much your salary is or how much your income is, it's gonna be way more than you would make in the Philippines. So i.e. you're gonna be considered rich, even if you are a regular middle class, below middle class in whatever country that you're actually living in. So if you never know how to say no, or you don't know how to break this habit, I'm gonna tell you like I tell everybody else, it's just not gonna end well. Heed the warning, take this into consideration. If you do happen to make it abroad, be careful about how you choose to take care of family, right? You're gonna have to explain to family that this shit ain't what you think it is. This money just don't, like they say, the money just don't, you know, grow on trees, right? This shit is for real. I'm living this. This is me. I gotta deal with this one. I gotta make this money. I gotta put in the hours. I gotta put in the work. So I deserve to be able to take care of and do what my money as I choose to. You shouldn't let other people who just so happen to be somebody you care about dictate how and what you do with your money. Okay? And I hope this video is found to be, you know, beneficial in some capacity to somebody. I appreciate you locking in, man. It's been a good doc. Y'all take care. Y'all stay blessed, man. Doc is out. Peace.